Looked at the ratio, right, of Township being worth 240 billion versus the bonded houses in the Township being at 22 billion, right? Now, when I'm looking at this and analyzing it,
how much do we have of equity in the Township?
That's where I'm going with this, right? Is that we have so much equity, but now here's the mind block, right? Here's where we are right now. You find out in Townships, we are not for credit. So when you are going to come to me and say you can refinance, so I'm going to sit and listen to you that what do you mean that I can refinance?
But this is really interesting to think that we have 218 billion that's actually sitting in the Township that's not actually doing anything, that's not working for us.
Township investing. Let's have a conversation. You know, when it comes to property investing, I know there's different options out there. One can be looking at investing in your suburbs, and then somebody else would be looking at Township. So now what would you say is the potential when it comes to Township?
So the potential, man, when it comes to Township investing is really wide. The reason why I'm saying it's really wide is because it can actually bring you a whole lot of money. However, at the same time, it can also bring you a lot of heartache, man. We've been writing down notes in terms of how to actually invest in the Township or how to actually look for proper investments within the Township. However, it's always important for you to know both the pros and cons before investing within anything, man. Before you actually put your money out and into the universe or into the whole property investing or investing either way, just make sure that you are actually going to be investing in the right property, because if you don't invest in the right property, man, you're going to be facing a whole lot of stuff.
I've got an interesting fact for you, man, because we're looking at the Township market, really looking at the potential that it really has. And then I actually looked at the highest. I was looking at the highest properties that are selling in the Township. And guys, tell me when I say that, you guys will be amazed. Do you want to guess what is the highest, or should we leave it to the live? So I'd just really like to understand what you guys think about that so that I can reveal, because it's quite interesting, man. It's a number. It's a number and a half. There we go. We've got 1.5 million. We've got 2.7. It feels like a bidding war. Let's go. So 1.5 is not, it's not the price that we're looking at. 2.7. Pretty close, but not there. Not there.
By far end.
2.7 being the highest.
2.7.
Going once, going twice, sold. So, so the highest price when we're looking at the properties, right, in the Township, it was sitting at 12.2 million. That was crazy. That's crazy. And it was in Soweto. It was a property in Soweto. It was listed at 12.2 million. What is your take based on that price level?
12.2 is a bit hectic, man. It's a bit hectic, especially when you're looking at a Township. Before you even try to refurb or make the house look nice, you need to really understand what you're putting yourself into. So I'll give you a classic example. You're watching TV right now and you find out that someone is saying, or CTM is saying, that they're having a sale, they're selling African tiles, whatnot, right? And you see them really good for your property, right? You purchase these tiles only to find out that they were on the far end of the market. Now the problem is, if you are actually going to be buying those tiles, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to automatically increase the value of your property. If you bought your property below market value and you are saying that you're putting in these tiles in your property, yes, maybe you might actually be bringing your property price closer to the market value. However, once the property has actually reached the market value, do note that it won't actually go above market value. Now with this property that was listed at 12 million, it was really hard for the bank to actually finance this type of property. Reason being is that whenever the banks, right now, this is something that I want to really speak about, because I know as people of color, sometimes we might say that banks don't favor us and right. We need to really understand that what is the criteria that the bank actually uses to finance people, right? Now looking at this property that's worth 12.2 million, right? If I'm going to be applying for this property, the bank is going to do a risk analysis on the property, right? Risk analysis basically means that they're going to check that, is it really worth it for us as the bank to give this person our money so that they can actually purchase this property? If the risk is too much for the bank, now it becomes a problem for the bank to actually finance you as a property investor, because the bank doesn't feel comfortable with it. I mean, now take for example, right? If I'm actually going to be asking money from you, right? And you are saying that, okay, I understand, but now let me look at what other finances behind it, right? And you see that it's too much of a risk. Would you be comfortable giving me your money?
I wouldn't. So the banks are not necessarily the banks are not necessarily unfair if they are rejecting it, because at the end of the day, what's very important is that we really need to understand, when we're talking about understanding the market, we need to understand the lowest price from the highest price and where do I find my property at. Because I know when it comes to property investors, or when it comes to you owning that property, we become emotionally attached. Who doesn't want their house to sell at 2 million? Who doesn't want their house to sell at 5 million?
Of course.
But now the question becomes then, if the evaluator is going to come through and evaluate that property, how much will they list it at?
Right. As a property investor,
Yeah.
what do you think is the main problem that property investors have with tenants?
Especially when it comes to Township, right? I'd like to focus specifically on Township, is that, when it comes to Township, we have this mindset whereby I remember when we were hosting the past event, and somebody was like, guys, what if I'm running my business underground?
I like that term, underground.
So the gent asked that what if he's running his business underground? And I mean, now, if you're really looking at running your business underground, what does that really mean? Number one, if I'm taking hard cash, and I'm not going to the bank directly, so that cash is coming straight to my pocket and I'm dealing with whatever that I need to deal, I really need to question myself in terms of, when the bank is really looking at me, do I have evidence to tell the bank that, hey bank, I'm Neo or I'm Lebo and this is how much I'm getting, income versus expenses, can you loan me to buy my second property? So already if you're running away from that, ultimately in the long run it will catch up to you. I mean, even looking at almost the most basic thing, I talked about this last time, that we need to understand that property investing is a race. They might be saying that it's a long-term game, however your age is against you. So now what do I mean by saying that your age is against you? Every year that's actually coming, we're growing, we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4. Before you know it, you'll be 50 or 60 years old. And then you're going to retire. So now the question would then be, how do I apply for funding if I'm close to retiring? Because going back to how Lebo started it, that it's all about risk and understanding how the banks look at us. And that's really the game changer. Once you get to really understand that if the bank is looking at me in terms of, I'm looking for an overpriced property in an area that's not really promising so much, for instance, the 12.2 million, now the bank is exposing themselves. If I'm looking for funding and I'm close to retirement, again, the bank is exposing themselves. So once we have this criteria in terms of the bank really looks at 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is how I need to position myself as a property investor, I'm actually able to capitalize on those laws. So I know right now I should be building my credit, so I can't be running anything underground.
Of course. So now here's another thing, right? If you have actually invested in property, or if you are actually a tenant right now, you'd know that before you actually move into the property, a risk analysis or vetting you, the rule of thumb is that the person that's moving in the property should actually be earning 3 times more than what the rental is. So say for instance, if the rental amount in that property is 5,000, that means that the person should be actually earning 15,000 on a monthly basis. Now here's the problem with the township. Now when you're looking at the tenant, whenever you're actually going to be putting in a tenant within a property whereby a lot of people are actually able to actually produce their payslip, now it becomes easier for you to vet that person. Now the problem is that if you can't actually vet the person that's going to be living in your property from a credit perspective, number one. Number two, that if are they actually earning 3 times of what the rent is right now, it then becomes hard for you as a property investor to check if this is the right person to actually come in. Now on the back end of that is that because these properties are actually cheaper to actually live in, this basically means that the tenancy rate might actually be good, because now the problem is that if you are charging 7,000, only so much people can actually pay 7,000 on a monthly basis. Now, if you are charging 1,000, a whole lot of people are able to actually afford that 1,000 on a monthly basis rather than the 7,000. If you do actually want to have a chat with us, or anybody that's within the live right now, if you do want to have a one-on-one chat with us right now, just send us an email at info@nongwealth.co.za, and the first session will be free, man. So we will just be having a conversation, getting to understand where you are, and then from there I can't guarantee that it will be free.
I mean, we've been working hard. You know, when you hit that line for the first session is free, you know that we've been working really hard. We have a link that will assist people in terms of if they want to verify if that trust is registered.
Of course, so it's the Law Society of South Africa. So if you just type lssa.org.za, so what will happen is that you'll give them a call, and then you will actually ask them that, can you please just confirm these people's information? So I remember the last time when we were going into a deal, we called them and we asked them that, okay, what's the name of the company? The second thing that we asked for them is their account details. Now, it's quite crazy that a lot of people don't really know that whenever you're actually going to be going into another deal, what you can do is that you can also get the account details from these guys, the Law Society of South Africa. If you are seeing that the account numbers that are listed under the Law Society and the ones that you got from these guys are not actually corresponding, you can already see that you have a huge problem over there. So whenever you're going to purchase a property, be it that you are a property investor or you're not a property investor, just visit the Law Society of South Africa, give them a call, and then also understand that the attorneys that you are using right now, are they registered with the Law Society? If they're not registered with the Law Society, run away.
Right, I'd like to put another question. I like putting up these questions, right? Is that looking at the RDPs, because today's topic was looking at township investing. Looking at the RDPs, right? Let us see in the comment section, how much do you think is the highest so far, highest RDP that's being on the market right now?
500,000, that's a lot. That's a lot.
I want to drop a bomb, right? Because I was doing research. So I was reading a report. It was reported in 2020 by right, that the value of the township property market is sitting at 240 billion. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I was looking at that. I was like, the value,
how much?
240 billion. But now here's the thing, right? Here's the interesting fact about it is that there's only 22 billion bonded from that 240 billion. Like, that's crazy when you're thinking about that, because like when I was
I remember my grandfather saying that he bought the property for 2,000.
Yeah,
2,000
for 2,000. That's a classic example, right? 2,000. Let's say they did whatever.
That's also the crazy part, because
crazy.
When we moved in my township, my parents actually bought the property in 2006. They bought it at around 200 to 250,000.
So,
and then if you're looking at its value today, it's sitting at, I actually evaluated it just to see how much it's appreciated. And today it's sitting at around 750 to 800,000. People buy properties through stockfields. And this is also the reason why I was saying that in the townships you have much equity, because through stockfields it's only cash. And now imagine, and the simplest way to define a stockfield is a group of people who put together their resources to find a common goal. So basically it's a group of people who put together their monies to buy properties. So they buy most of their properties in cash. Now, when you're looking at the differences in the suburbs, they're not mainly focused on the money that you have, but they're focused on the credits.
So for me, when I looked at the ratio, right, of township being worth 240 billion versus the bonded houses in the township being at 22 billion, right? Now, when I'm looking at this and analyzing it,
how much do we have of equity in the township?
That's where I'm going with this, right? Is that we have so much equity, but now here's the mind block, right? Here's where we are right now. You find out in townships, we are not for credit. So when you are going to come to me and say you can refinance, so I'm going to sit and listen to you that what do you mean that I can refinance? What we're saying rather is that we're saying that the township market is sitting on equity. And now if we can all refinance,
I mean, think about this, right? Think about it, right? To everybody in the comment section, please do tell us, what do you think about this, right?
It's quite interesting.
Say, for instance, if we were to all come through together as a township and say that we are all going to go back to the bank and refinance this 218 million.
I don't want to be responsible for that.
With
I
this,
don't want to be
I'll be responsible. I'll be responsible for this. So with this 218 billion, what we can do is that we can go buy your luxury apartments, right?
Like you can develop the whole township with it.
This basically means that the whole township will be sorted. However, proper systems needs to actually be set, because now remember, we all read Animal Farm. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if there's only one person that's going to be maintaining all of this money, then it's doomed. It's already doomed.
So for me, when I looked at the ratio, right, of township being worth 240 billion versus the bonded houses in the township being at 22 billion, right? Now, when I'm looking at this and analyzing it,
how much do we have of equity in the township?
That's where I'm going with this, right? Is that we have so much equity, but now here's the mind block, right? Here's where we are right now. You find out in townships, we are not for credit. So when you are going to come to me and say you can refinance, so I'm going to sit and listen to you that what do you mean that I can refinance?
But this is really interesting to think that we have 218 billion that's actually sitting in the township that's not actually doing anything, that's not working for us. I mean, with me, I know that I'll never pay off my house, man. Anytime I see that I have actually paid it half, man, I refinance that thing and buy another property. So I think this is something that we also need to actually look at. That how do we actually strategize and put ourselves in situations whereby if we are actually going to be refinancing, because I know right now we're getting excited speaking about the 218 billion. That with a B, not the M, the B, the billion. So we all get excited about how do we actually get this money. But now the problem is when we do get the money, do we really know what to do with that money? Because most of the time people do actually refinance. However, they don't know what to do. I remember
we all go on vacation as the township.
Of course.
Go on vacation as the township. We go to Morocco.
So in closing, right, from my side, it's easier to go into the property investing from the township, right?
Yeah.
However, something that I want to actually emphasize is that we need to also make sure that it makes sense from the numbers perspective.
Yeah.
So it's of no use of us purchasing a property that's worth 250,000, knowing very well that we purchased the property at 200,000, 250,000, yet it's not actually yielding the right cash flow on a monthly basis. So my thing is that whenever you're actually going to be investing in a property, know how much you're actually going to be getting out of this property, so that when you do actually invest, you invest smiling.
About that. So we have exciting news. We just spoke to a lady today. She's also in our power team. She's an accountant. And we were having a discussion about property investing. And what was really nice is that she agreed to be on the live with us, just like Sport today. So it's going to be on a Wednesday at 7:30. We'll be looking at all things accounting and how they affect your property business. So please make sure that you do follow us. And she'll actually be there.
To further, that's what I was about to say.
She will be there. I just thought about that now.
To further give you more value, on the 1st of October, she will actually be there in Midrand. So if you do want more knowledge or want to have a Q&A, a live Q&A, not this live, the real life, the real live, you should actually purchase your ticket, because once you actually get that ticket, you will have access to our people. So now this would be you getting a chance to ask questions that you've always wanted to know from the tax perspective, from a property investing perspective, and also from a financing perspective.
I mean,
I'm open.
The nice thing about it, let's think about it, right? How much is a consultation? Now the ticket is worth 250, but now you will have access to accountants, you will have access to lawyers. So what we will be discussing on the 1st of October is such, trust me when I say that even the 5 hours of the day, it's not enough to speak about property investing. Property investing is not simply taking out money or taking out credit and putting it into a property and telling people that you have property. What we want for you, that's what we also want for ourselves, is to live a better lifestyle because of our investments. And the only way you can start doing that is by getting a network. The only way that you can start doing that is by investing in yourself. And we did mention that on the 1st of October, we'll be hosting in Midrand. And if you don't buy a ticket, I'll repeat, you'll see the 2-minute videos.